Hello, students. Today is Tuesday, it's not October, it's August the 9th, 2016. Here are your top announcements. First thing, seniors, Tennessee Promise is open now for you to sign up. You need to do that before November 1st, but don't put it off. Do it today. Do it today. Go to tnpromise.gov. It takes you 5 minutes to sign up. And that way you can get started on your journey to 2 years of free tuition at a local community college. You may say, well, Dr. Horn, I'm not going to a community college. I've already been accepted to Yale. And I will say, I don't care. Sign up for it anyway. You never know what might happen. You might, go skiing and break both your legs and then don't want to go to Yale because it's, going to be too hard to get around, and might want to spend a year in community college first. I don't know, but do sign up for it anyway, because it doesn't hurt you one bit to sign up for it. Go through the things. You've got to do some service learning for it. You're already doing that for us, so that takes care of that. You've got to go to 2 meetings. Big deal. 2 meetings out of, the entire year. So sign up for Tennessee Promise today. tnpromise.gov if you're a senior. If you're not a senior, don't go sign up for it. Next thing, TOPS office will be closed next Friday for the strangest of reasons. There's a NASCAR race in Bristol twice a year, and whenever there's a NASCAR race, they close the office the Friday before because traffic is murder. You can imagine in a small little town of 50,000 people, when they have a NASCAR track that seats over 100,000 people, that it might get a little crowded around town. So we close school and close the offices for that. And you should have a 4-day week next week as far as the amount of work that you're given. Friday is our first due date. What does that mean? That means all of the work that's due on August the 12th is due August the 12th by midnight your time. Meaning if you live in Eastern Time, midnight, or in Central Time, midnight. So get all of that done. You've had plenty of time to do it. And if you have questions or problems, let me know. Let's see. I think that's it. Thought for the day today. First of all, it is, what's it called? National Book Lovers Day. I don't know if that's a real thing or not. I know it's not a national holiday. But I was trying to think of, what's my favorite book? And it's usually the one I'm reading at the moment. But there's some that I just come back to over time. For example, when I was a younger person, The Catcher in the Rye was my favorite book, and I read it, I think, 7 times. Then I found out that most of the famous serial killers and famous assassins from the 70s and 80s had also read that book multiple times, and I thought I probably should put that one down for a second. And then the Gunslinger and the entire Dark Tower series by Stephen King became my favorite book and book series, and I read it multiple times and got obsessed with that world. There was a period of time when I was obsessed with Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, and I read them multiple times. And now I'm obsessed with A Song of Ice and Fire, and I'm on my 3rd reread through those. And that's the Game of Thrones, if you don't know. And so those are my favorite books, but there's one book that through everything I read every single year. And I read it on Christmas break, and that book is Moby Dick. And that's by Herman Melville. And the reason I love that book so much is because it makes me feel like I am traveling back in time. Because it describes everything so vividly and so clearly that you know what it's like to live back then. And to be and Ishmael was a sailor, and he was going to go out, and he took sailing, he would go out on these voyages, whaling voyages and otherwise, to make money. And he was really kind of a free spirit and wasn't tied down to anything. And so there's so much truth in those books. There's so many quotes. There's way ahead of its time about talking about bigotry and diversity and discrimination and those types of things. It's an amazing book. And a lot of people bash it because they think it's boring because of all the detail, or, the ending is not what you'd expect, and that sort of thing. And a lot of people had to read it for school, so they're like, oh, this is terrible, I have to read this for school. But I've always loved that book from the very beginning. And one thing that's really cool, and you'll notice as you get older, when you get into a book when you're like a teenager, and then you reread it later as an adult, and just how it changes the meaning for you, and how you look at things differently, and that's really cool to me. So that's one of your thoughts for the day today. The other thought for the day today is what we were talking about yesterday, and that's talking about skills that you need in the workplace. And one of the skills that people are looking for today is creativity. Now, creativity manifests itself in a couple of different ways. First of all, creativity manifests itself in the traditional way of, let's say, art. You know, somebody that can draw really cool things when they're 8 years old. They're like, oh, he's so creative. Or, you know, the 9-year-old that's like making up songs. Oh, they're so creative. That's the traditional way of being creative. And many of you are creative types. We have a lot of artists. We have a lot of musicians in school. You know, and you can even say that like people like skateboarders and athletes are creative in the way that they manipulate traditional things, such as ways to ride a skateboard or ways to play basketball or ways to do this or that. And they kind of do them in non-traditional ways. And that's what makes them creative. So that's the second definition of creativity, and this is what your future employers are looking for. They're looking for people who can take problems that don't have very good solutions to them and use unconventional or non-traditional ways to solve those problems. And that's the kind of creativity that's needed in the workplace. So don't think, okay, well, I can't draw, I can't write and make up stories, I can't write songs, I can't, make up a new trick on a skateboard, so I'm not creative. It's not true. The thing about creativity is throwing off the conventions of society and the way things have always been done and coming up with new ways to do them. Inventions are a type of creativity. Modifying things is a way of creativity. For example, if you play Minecraft, that requires a lot of creativity just using what you already have. And I don't play personally. It annoys me for some reason. I can't live in an 8-bit world. But my stepson plays all the time, and I see him making. For example, he made what he called a snow palace, and so what he did is he found a certain type of stone that was really white that looked like snow, and he added some things to it, and so that was very creative, I thought. So your future employees are looking for that. They want people to come up with solutions to problems that nobody else has thought of before. To be less expensive, to be a faster solution, to be a better solution for everybody. So that's what people are looking for. So how can you develop your creative side? Well, one of the best ways to develop your creativity is to use your imagination. So write, make up stories, make up characters, and do that sort of thing. Don't make prank calls, but prank calls are a really good way of being creative. So prank call your best friend. Don't prank call strangers, but different things like that will help you be more creative. Just engaging your mind and opening it up. Another way to be creative, and this is going to sound crazy, is to play Sudoku. And Sudoku is weird because there's a certain rule, there's certain rules to play it, but you have to open up your mind and kind of let your mind breathe to figure out where to fit those numbers in. So any kind of exercise like that, puzzles, anything will help you be more creative. And the key here is just building more pathways and more connections in your brain. That way you can start seeing problems from different angles. There you go. Well, this has been 9 minutes of fun. Hope you've had a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.